kilometers, continue onto Hope Princeton Highway. Continue onto Hope Princeton Highway. Stay in the left 2 lanes.
Good morning! Hope na me.
Your message to Maureen May says, "Good morning, Hope Mommy." Ready to send it? Okay. Go ahead.
Good morning! Hope!
Your message to Maureen May says, "Good morning, Hope." Ready to send it? Okay. Go ahead.
Good morning! Hope na ako.
Your message to Maureen May says, "Good morning, Hope Nacho." Ready to send it? Okay, it's sent.
Official. Greetings to you from Orange County, California. This is Coaching for Leaders, and I'm your host, Dave Stahovia. Leaders aren't born, they're made, and this weekly show will give you access to the best thinkers, resources, and actions to help you develop your leadership skills. And speaking of making leaders and leadership development, dialogue is one of the most important ways to do so, and that's why we have mastermind groups. It's also why it's an important part of the broader Coaching for Leaders community, and why once a month we hand the show over to you to submit your questions and for us to discuss those in detail on the first Monday of the month here. And you can submit your questions at coachingforleaders.com/feedback. We have a ton of questions this month. In fact, we're going to go into next month probably with all the questions we have, but don't let that stop you submitting your question for consideration in a future episode. And as I always do, I have Bonnie back with me again today to help tackle some of these questions. Bonnie, before I actually go into the first question here from Tiffany, I have a very brief announcement. First of all, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who reached out during the recent mastermind applications. Certainly to those of you who applied and were part of the upcoming groups who we've talked with. But I wanted specifically to say thanks to those who also just reached out with words of encouragement or kind email during the application process, or said that the mastermind wasn't right for you for whatever reason, but were so supportive. And in fact, I get so many of those emails, I'm still answering some of them. So if you haven't heard back from me, that's because I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I will get to those very soon. Thank you so much for your kind support and your willingness to reach out. And along with that, we ended up starting an additional group that we had originally thought when we started the application process, and we still have, we had one change of plans, and we have one spot that's available in one of the groups that's starting up here on Mondays. And so if you were thinking about applying for the mastermind, or maybe you just missed the deadline, or just hearing about it recently in the last couple of weeks, and you may be interested in still being considered for one of the groups starting now, you can actually reach out to me at coachingforleaders.com/contact. And this Monday group, just so you know for logistics, is meeting at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time, on 2 Mondays a month, and of course on 3 Mondays. So if that's something that's in alignment with you and you want to learn more about it, drop me a line at coachingforleaders.com/contact. That's the main contact page, and let me know you're interested. The details of that mastermind have been taken down off the website for now, but you can reach out to me personally if you may be interested in that spot. And by the way, if you did apply and didn't hear back from me for whatever reason, please do reach out as well. We had one person who submitted an application and didn't get to us for whatever reason. So if you didn't get an answer on an application, definitely reach out to me there as well. So now that we've made that announcement, Bonnie, let me go ahead and read the first question here from Tiffany and let you take the first crack at it. Tiffany wrote in and said, last week I got a phone call offering me a great position. I was not looking for a job, and I had no intentions of leaving anytime soon. But after reading the job description, it's really seeming like a job I would love. After speaking with them, I learned the position would offer much better pay, benefits, retirement, a year-end bonus, and it's also offering to pay me to go back to college to further my education. Taking into account just what I would gain career-wise, it's a no-brainer. But when I think of the organization I'm leaving behind and what it stands to lose, my heart breaks. I don't want to disappoint all the people I've worked with by leaving so soon. And I don't want people to feel like I'm abandoning the mission or the values of the organization. That said, I'm under no obligation to stay. My question to you is this: how can I communicate my reasons for leaving without them viewing me as a sellout? Is it wrong that I feel so much guilt for leaving? In a way, I don't think I should have to disclose my reasons because it's very personal. But on the other hand, I wouldn't have this new opportunity without my time there. Any advice or guidance would be so appreciated. Tiffany, thank you so much for the question. Bonnie, what are you thinking?
One of the things that comes up often when we think about our time in our workplace is just how easy it is to have our loyalty be misplaced. And I am someone who, your entire message just resonated so much with me because I do have a feeling with the organizations I have worked with where there's this sense of meaning and purpose behind what it is I do there, the role that I entire slice of humanity that we affect. And you ask the question, is it wrong that I feel so much guilt for leaving? And I sort of had a funny expression, how can you be wrong when it feels so right? I would say that it probably feels right, because you probably are one of those people who's so fortunate enough to have a job that feels meaningful to you, that feels like you have an impact, and that's wonderful. Congratulations, and I absolutely wish you that in whatever role it is you play for the rest of your working life. But it is wrong in the sense that organizations, while they are made up with people, the organization, the system itself, the entity itself, at the core of it has absolutely no loyalty to anyone. And I say this as someone who went through the dot-com boom and the dot-com bust and got to... There's a movie with George Clooney called, I think it's Up in the Air. Did you look that up real quick?
Yes, I remember.
Make sure that's the right title for it. But yeah, I mean, it's a really pretty dark movie talking about him essentially traveling all over the country, just laying people off. And it's a wonderful movie, but it is kind of just one of those reminders that when circumstances change, there isn't ever going to exist, nor should there really, just a loyalty to a single person. And one of the things, while I always feel a sense of meaning and significance, I also always try to have the parallel to that I am completely replaceable. There's nowhere where if I were to leave that there's not some wonderful person, collection of people, or something that could see things with a new lens that I never brought to it. So I try to think of myself as completely replaceable, but at the same time that I have meaning and significance in what it is that I do. So you seem to me to have a little bit more of a sense of dependence. And the word that I'm using here is a word used by Peter Block in a book that I've mentioned many times on the show. It's called The Empowered Manager. And I have referenced that leadership book since my master's program, probably, I don't know, 100 times or so. I mean, it's just an incredibly powerful book. One of the things at the core of it, it's called The Empowered Manager, is that so much of the system out there, so much of the business world, the nonprofit world, or whatever, is set up where we are dependent on our workplace. We're dependent on our workplace for our pay. We're dependent on our workplace for our affirmation, our sense of worth. We're dependent for, in some cases, medical insurance. I mean, there's all these sort of dependent things for feedback, for whether we keep our job, for whether we get promoted, all of those things. And he suggests that we break that model, that actually it's much healthier for the organization if instead of being dependent, we are empowered. And one of the things that he outlines is that this thing that he calls the entrepreneurial cycle. And it starts out with more of an entrepreneurial contract, this enlightened self-interest where we actually do think about our own needs and our own wants and what we need to receive kind of in this exchange for the work that we're contributing, using what he calls authentic tactics. Authenticity in the workplace is just incredibly powerful and can really transform teams and help people do amazing things together. And then this idea of autonomy. And he says to create an entrepreneurial cycle, it's necessary to renegotiate the essential contract between the person and the organization, whereas the patriarchal contract requires us, 1, to submit to authority, 2, to deny self-expression, and 3, to make sacrifices for unnamed future rewards. The entrepreneurial contract takes the other side. It requires us to be our own authority, encourages self-expression, make commitments, and believe that the above are just. And I could just read. I could keep going. I had found a few other pages I thought I might reference, but I would just encourage you to pick up the book and see how it might transform your thinking. I do think your loyalty is misplaced. I think that it sounds like one of those things that despite you feeling guilty, you're still having the courage to make this change anyway. At least it has been made real in your mind. as you're starting to experience these feelings of guilt, what that tells me is you've imagined yourself in this new future. And it's scary for you, and you do feel this sense of guilt, and perhaps that you're being disloyal, but you're still allowing yourself the courage to imagine this vision for your future. And so congratulations on that. I am so excited for you. You have a great future in mind. And one of the things that was a really great resource for me, I never actually ended up having to use it, but I would reference a Michael Hyatt episode, a podcast episode that he did. That's one of the best ones I've ever heard of him, where he talks about how to leave your job. And he gives a number of good recommendations about how to do that. And who knows? I mean, you could